at anniversary time. One, keep in mind how God has brought us through, and number two, keep our hearts in good condition. Keep it tuned. Know I have been with you always. In the 16th verse of the 8th chapter, we find King Solomon in the midst of his anniversary message. He is reminding the people that God has been with them a mighty, mighty long time. I was not there, so I don't know. But I imagine that Solomon said something like this: God has watched over us and has brought us to this day. The road was not easy, but he brought us. There were sharp curves in it, steep hills to climb, and sometimes there were no road signs at all. Yes, along the way, God has marched with us. Now, there were roadblocks and detours. We had to go around about ways and got lost sometimes. From Egypt to Israel was a long road. It took the Jews through the wilderness, through valleys and over rivers and mountains. Yes. But through it all, God never left them alone. And they learned to trust in him. That's why that beautiful song, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, we have to continue to trust in God. Because I don't care what happens in our life, God woke us up this morning. God protected us all day long. And no matter who we are, where we come from, we got to put our hands in the hands of God. Through it all, God has been with us. Through it all, as a church here, God has been with the people of Rendell Presbyterian Church. I know that there have been difficult times. I know that there have been problems and trouble, financial and personal, but through it all, God's kept you together as a church. And only God can keep you together. An example of how so many of us have forgotten our Egypt. I hear many black people talking about what we need today. What we need, they say, is more black businesses. What we need is to become more politically stronger. I'm not trying to knock these type of things, but you may recall many years ago, they told us that we needed an education. And we went and got all the education that we could, and still black folks with degrees are worse off than white folks with no degree. And that's sticking in my mind when I hear so much talk about more black business and more political strength. We need more of both of these things. I don't know about you, but I didn't come from a small town, Mayfield in Suffolk County, to where I am today because any political or minority business. No, I'm here and where I am because I was reared by parents who knew God and knew God could do something with me and for me. Parents whose heart were right, because I grew up in a church where people cared, where the pastor cared, where the members cared, who were there to nurture me and to make something out of it, because God is able. And God can make a difference in our life. And no matter how much business we got, if you don't have God on your side, my dear Christian friends, you cannot make it. And you got to keep your heart in tune. You got to keep it right. You got to be about the business of love and understanding. And in the church sometimes we forget about love. We forget come when you would need that person. Let me tell you a true story. Dr. Howard Thurman's mother, who lived in Florida years ago, she lived next to an old white lady who was mean as a snake. And they had a fence between their homes, and this lady, as she cleaned out her chicken coop, some of you know what a chicken coop was, you can't put that. And she would throw her manure across the fence. And she kept telling her about she never stopped. So one day, this old lady got sick. Real sick. So Mrs. Thurman decided, even though they weren't talking, she decided to fix some soup for her. She fixed them both a nice soup, sent it over to the lady. She ate the soup and thought it was good soup. And along with the soup, she sent a bunch of roses. She looked at the roses and said, "What some beautiful roses you got." She said, "Where in the world did you get those roses?" She looked at her and said, "You know, all of that manure that you threw on my fence, that I used that manure to grow these beautiful roses." And she went on to conclude and to say that, you know, God can even take manure and make something good out of it. If God can do that with the roses, what can God do with you? No matter how difficult it might seem, let God have his way. And things will be all right. In the 17th and 18th verses of our scripture, Solomon climaxes his message by talking about his daddy's work, or what his daddy had intended to do. Life is a funny thing. We don't always get to finish many of the things that we start. This is very true of church work. 78 years ago, I'm sure that the founders of this church knew that they may not get finished with this program, this building, or its great work. But their hearts were right with God. And they knew that somebody would take up the mantle. They knew that in the end they would not be remembered by God solely for what they had done, but he would remember them by what condition their hearts were in when they tried. Solomon said that, "I know that my daddy did not do all that he wanted to do, but God was pleased because his heart was right." God knows our hearts. He knows our thoughts. He knows our desires. I speak to you as one who has worked in the church for many, many years. And I know that sometimes when we have done our best, that we are criticized and mistreated. The devil is always busy. And he does not want to see you working in the church.